Hey, I'm John Greaves III. Welcome back to another episode of Conquering the Platform. This is a unique look behind the scenes at the United States Powerlifting Coalition, where you guys get to talk to and listen to the opinions and training philosophies, everything that makes them tick of the people who make this federation such a great place to lift. Today, I've got my guy, Christopher Wichtl, and he's going to be coming on here to talk about his experiences in the USPC, both as a lifter and as a judge. Let's go ahead and bring Chris to the stage right now. Big Chris, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Hey, man, how you doing? I appreciate you taking some time. I know you had a long day, so I appreciate you taking some time out to talk to me tonight. We're going to keep it short and to the point. I want to say, first of all, you know, when people see you in the way that you are in meets and how, you know, you're a pretty open guy. Anybody can talk to you. Like, you came up to me. We were just talking when I met you, like we've been, you know, like we had known each other for a long time. So a lot of people may not realize that, you know, you've been competing in powerlifting since like 2003. You've got a lot of accolades. If somebody just Googles you and the word powerlifting and they start looking at what you've done, and they look at your open powerlifting rankings, they start saying, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. What about the sport has kept you coming back for over 20 years? Because you started in 2003.
Probably the biggest thing. I'm too dumb to quit. I don't know. I should already be done, but there's always something I'm always working towards, like the next total, the next meet, the next what I want to accomplish. So I guess I don't know when to give up, if there is a time to even give up.
Okay. I mean, that's cool because powerlifting is basically, you know, it's a cliche, but cliches are cliches because they're true. You know, then you don't make a cliche out of something that's not true. And we always say in powerlifting, it's you versus you. Is the goal for you something like a number that you had in your head when you first started and you're like, hey, I haven't reached that goal yet? Because that's what it is for me. I set some numbers around the time that I started competing in powerlifting, and I haven't reached those numbers yet. So no matter how long I take away from the platform, I'm still like, I got to go back because I haven't reached those numbers yet. So is that it for you? Or is it more a case of every time you achieve a goal, it fires you up to go after something else?
It's more, I'd say the more I see like the first time lifters and how much fun they have, and then I'm like, oh, well, this can turn out to be fun. And then it's just showing up, you get to hang out with everybody, you just get to lift. It's a lot of work and it's horrible. And I complain about it when I'm in training, and I'll say I don't want to do a meet 1,000 times, but I still end up doing it. And then by the end of the meet, it's like, oh my God, that was a blast. Let's do another one. And then you sign up for the next one, and it's like, okay, well, now we got to do this one. But there's always there's a goal. There's always a bigger goal. How far can we push it? How far can we go to see what happens? So it's kind of like, how far can we take this, and how long can we do this versus everybody else?
Gotcha.
Because I don't know how many people's out there has totaled 2,000 for as many years as I have. I think since 2013-ish.
Yeah.
I think I've totaled 2,000 in just about every single meet I've been in.
Yeah.
So it's just how long can we keep this going? And how long can we stay competitive? I guess is the biggest thing.
It's interesting you say that. I mentioned, you know, if somebody Googles you on open powerlifting, rankings come up. I'm gonna read something here so people see what I'm talking about. So at your first meet, which was in the AAU in February 22nd. So actually today, in a month, we'll be at the anniversary of your first meet. So February 22nd, 2003 in the AAU, you squatted 405 raw and benched 290 and deadlifted 510 pounds in the 198 class. And at the Shack Showdown where I met you, you squatted 714.3. You squatted 765. Yeah. You squatted 765. you benched 493, and you almost got an 800-pound deadlift. You got 762.8, and then you missed 802. So for me, when I look at those numbers, it's like, this guy's come a pretty long way from February 2003 to November of 2024. But when you hear those numbers, and the dramatic difference, what does that say to you in terms of just looking back at I don't know if you ever look back at your career like that, but you just look at where you started, you look at where you are now. What does that kind of say to you?
For the most part, I'm still hung up on like my best and how I haven't accomplished past that yet. Like there was times where I was benching in the 600s, but I haven't been able to get back to that. There was times where I was squatting easily over 8, but I haven't been able to get back to that. There was a time where I could pull 8 all day long, but I haven't been able to get back to that. Whether it's age or what, it's how do I figure out and how keep working to get past my best? So when I look at it, it's just like it's kind of cool. And I see all the kids now. Like we just did a meet in Danville with the USPC, and there was a bunch of high school kids there, and it's just like y'all just keep going. Like you see somebody squatting 800. I've been there. I've been at the bottom where I've been at 400, and now you're at 800.
Yeah.
So it's just and trying to convince people it's a marathon and not a race. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next week.
Yeah.
Now I've done it for 20 years now. So
21.
21, yeah. And I still haven't got it all figured out.
Yeah, because that was your first meet, but you were obviously lifting weights before your first meet. So you've been in the game.
There's a bunch of meets before that one.
Yeah.
100% raw that I don't think they've got up and they can't find the records or something like that.
Nice.
Well, there's a bunch before that.
I think it's part of it is because, so I'm in my 50s, right? And I always had to catch myself because I sound like that thing about the old guy. Hey, you kids, get off my lawn, right? And I feel like, but I can't get away from it. Is like a lot of social media, because when I first heard of powerlifting, I heard of it because I saw some guys preparing for a meet, right? And this is back in 1997, maybe 1998. In fact, it was Jesse Rogers. He had come to the gym where I was, and Jesse was, I saw him deadlifting. He was getting ready for a meet. And it's crazy to me now, though, that we see people on Instagram, and it's like once the algorithm notices you, you probably are already somewhere near the top, right? So when somebody discovers you, they're like, oh, look at this guy. He's already doing this. And they don't necessarily see the amount of effort that goes into getting to that point. Or you see a lot of guys who do hit big numbers fairly quickly, but then they never last. I've got names coming into my head right now of people who were like, I don't want to call anybody a flash in the pan because I feel like that's disrespectful. They did work hard, but they couldn't last because injuries or whatever else. They get in the sport and they have to get out of it because they didn't take the time, you know what I'm saying? Yes. To get to the point where their body is prepared to be strong. Their tendons and ligaments could handle lifting that kind of weight, and it doesn't send you to the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you see these kids and you're like, hey, just stay with it. Do you get the idea? Like, do you feel like they're listening to you? Is it like, you know what, man, I got to just keep saying it anyway.
It's kind of like, I look at it as like when you're raising your kids, like you just do the best you can. You give them all the knowledge you can, tell them everything you can do. And then it's just sit back and hope they make the right decisions.
Yeah.
But everybody has to learn at their own pace. Like, I mean, man, if I was 21 again, I'd probably be maxing out every single day. And now it's like, man, it hurts to go past 80%. Like, I'm like, oh my God, we got to go up to 80. Like, no, let's hang around 50% today.
And
it's just, you just put it all out, just put all the information out there and just hope like, okay, you'll eventually see it. It'll come along, or they'll hear it enough from enough other people. Because I don't know how many times I've told even with my wife, like, hey, look, this is what you should be doing. And it's like, she'll come home and be like, oh, I saw so-and-so on Instagram and they said this. And I was like, sounds familiar, right? You've heard it for the last 6 months. And she's like,
Oh, wow.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's just
Oh,
hearing it, just something just clicks. And it's like, okay, now you know.
we must be married to the same woman. Maybe not, man. So I mentioned, we mentioned a couple of federations already. You've competed in several federations. You've done well, as you said, over the course of your career. You could really compete successfully anywhere because you have. So what made you choose the USPC? And then what made you decide to be involved in the USPC as a referee, not just as a lifter?
We were looking for meets to do just around North Carolina because there's not really a whole lot to pick from. I was doing SPF up around Virginia, then they kind of stopped, and then USPC kind of came along out of nowhere, and I did the first meet, and I really liked how it was run because it was all about the lifters, everything that Johnny has done and what I've seen from Johnny and Star and everybody. It's more about the lifters and them making money and USPC making money and all that. So that was the biggest thing, to just stay with them.
So that's actually a pretty good segue into this question. So one of the things I find attractive about the USPC, I've competed in, well, I'll go ahead and name them. So I've competed in USAPL, the USPA, the SPF. I actually competed in SPF. That was my first ever that was my first ever really sanctioned meet. Before that, I did like a Sunlight Power bench and deadlift thing, and just to see whatever. And then I've done like some backyard meets, but like legitimately, my first meet was SPF in Arab, Alabama, and and then I did USAPL after that. But so one thing that I find attractive about the USPC is the focus. I think that's the best way to say it. There's an emphasis and a focus on keeping drama to a minimum. So I mentioned all the federations I've been involved in. There are good people in these federations, people I'm still cool with to this day. But every federation that I've ever encountered has mentioned, oh yeah, we keep the politics out of it. But there's a difference between saying you're going to keep the politics out of it and you're going to keep the drama to a minimum and actually doing it. I feel like you got to be focused on that. That's got to be like a point of emphasis. At the meet, just for example, at the meet where I ran into you, where I met you, I also ran into somebody who had experienced a pretty negative experience at a meet that was run by a different federation where I was called. I was doing the play-by-play, and I remembered her, and she was like, "Oh, I remember you. You were doing the play." And I said, "Oh yeah." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm lifting now." And the reason I bring that up is she was happy in the USPC. She was like, "Oh, I love being here," and I could see her on the platform how she felt, right, compared to the other experience. What are some things that everybody in the USPC, from lifters to referees, can do to maintain that atmosphere, though? Because it takes everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't say, "Oh, well, this is what we want to do," but then everybody doesn't buy in, and because then it won't work. So what are some things that everybody in the USPC needs to do to just maintain an atmosphere where everybody feels welcome to come compete?
They do a pretty good job. The biggest thing I can see now is if you want to be a judge or you want to be some part of USPC, you have to compete. It's like 1 or 2 times every single year. So you still understand, like, okay, this is what it's like to be an athlete. I've seen so many judges from other federations that maybe not have lifted in several years. So you lose that connection between I am a lifter and I am a judge, or I am a meet director. And USPC has meet directors that still compete over all the states. So you got any level of person that everybody still can. Even Johnny competes. Even he's done a meet since he's taken over USPC. So everybody that has some spot in the USPC still competes to this day.
Johnny actually asked me something about that, where it was I interviewed him once and we were talking about it, and he was like, he mentioned that, and we were talking about meet directors competing in the meet where they're running the meet too. And I do not like that. I've seen it I've never seen it in the USPC. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I've just never seen it. But I have seen it in other federations, and I just feel like you end up with the most mediocre version of both a lifter and a meet director, because you're just pulled in too many different directions. But I do love the fact that, as you said, the officials are still competing, because you got to know how it feels on the other end too. You can't just go from memory. We're in a few meets in January. You mentioned the Danville one. What's been the most impressive lift that you've seen on the platform in the USPC so far this year?
Oh. At the Danville meet, there was a guy. He totaled over 2,000. I think he qualified for the pro meet. He might do the showdown. I think he's doing the Ghost Clash. I think he's getting ready for.
Okay.
But like there was a whole crew of high school kids that were there lifting. They were all, I mean, they're just fun to watch because they really have no idea how strong they really are. All they know is like, they're just guessing a number, and it's like they stand straight up with it and they're like shock themselves about it. And so that's always fun to watch them.
Yeah. I always say that too when I'm doing play-by-play and it's somebody like a teenager or whatever. I'm like, I love seeing young people get in the sport, just because if they stick with it, like you can be powerlifting for 50 years, competing as long as you want to do it. So it's just always cool to me to see like somebody gets in the sport, they're 14, 15, even 19 or 20. If this person just sticks with it for 20 years, what are they going to be able to, what are they going to accomplish in that time? And also, man, the other cool thing about the sport is, you never know where the sport will take you. You end up in other countries, because of competing, and that just like, it's a big deal, because that just changes your worldview. Like my oldest son is in the Marine Corps because we went to a meet in Europe, and that's where he realized that he enjoyed traveling. Right? Because he had never flown before, because he's afraid of heights. Right? But he's like, that was an experience. The plane's about to take off. We had to put him in the center middle seat because he didn't want to see the plane wheels leave the ground. Like, there's nothing holding us up, Dad. I was like, man, it's okay. Watch this movie. But he was like, man, it's so cool being able to go to other places and meet other people from different countries. He's like, you know what? I kind of want to do this. And so he ended up in the Marine Corps. He's in the Marine Corps now, got a halfway through his 20-year career, so it's just, you never know what powerlifting will do for you. And so that's what I always see when I see somebody who's very young getting into the sport. I'm like, man. And on the other end, I love seeing somebody who's like in their 60s competing for the first time, because I'm like, hey, you could compete for like another 20 years, because there's no telling what you're going to do either. You know what I mean? That's why I think the sport's so great. So which meet are you most excited for in 2025? I know everybody's talking about Odins. I'll tell you now, I'm excited for the Odins because I've heard so much stuff about it. But what are you excited to see? Either competing or referee.
It's probably going to be the showdown again, just to see how big it will get this year. Because of how big it was last year, actually looking at all the numbers and seeing everything, 11 guys totaling over 2,000 pounds is just crazy.
Yeah.
So to see what that will turn out to be this year is going to be, and they moved it to the convention center to house more people. Yeah. So to see how that plays out is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to calling it. We've already been asked to go back and do the play-by-play again, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back there. I'm going to ask you some questions they're less like, like the nuts and bolts side of things, and more back on just lifting. Because this is stuff that basically I'm going to give you a chance to to, as a referee, say the stuff that you want to say. All right.
Okay.
But you don't get to say it sometimes. So what's one thing as a referee that you wish more lifters would do to prepare themselves to do well on the platform?
Read the rule book. That's the easiest. That's the easiest thing. There's so many times somebody will ask a question. I'm like, did you read the rule book? And they're like, no. I'm like, man, you took 16 weeks, even 8 weeks, whatever you took for prep out of your time to get ready for this meet. You paid the $100, but whatever membership fee, all the money, Airbnb, travel, and you didn't take the time to read the rules.
Man.
Like even now, I'll look back and be like, I wonder if I can do like, oh yeah, it says in the rule book. I can, okay. But man, there are so many questions. It's just like, did you really just ask me? Like, it's fine. You can ask me. Like, you can ask us whatever you want. But it's just like, did you read the rules? No. That's okay. Well, okay. We'll see how that works.
I'm gonna add to that a little bit because it's a lot of times lifters think that, like reading the rule book is like a negative thing, right? So they'll, even if they read it, they wait till the end, like maybe that week before the meet, they'll kind of glance over the rules, right? But if you read the rule book, you also find out what you can do. So I remember at the Americas, this guy was having trouble holding on to his deadlift. So he missed his deadlift twice because of grip, right? And I said, hey, man, have you ever tried deadlifting with like wrist wraps on? And he was like, no, I didn't know you could. He said, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. I'm like, dang, dude. Dang, you know what I mean? So I can't help you now. But it's just like, he said, yeah. And he didn't want to try it like right then and there. But I'm like, that's something that if you know something's in the rules, then you get a chance to train with that, with the rules in mind, for, like you said, 16 weeks. You're going to do better at the meet because you've trained to the rule. Yeah. As opposed to, okay. So I trained this way in my squat and now I find out in the rules I can't do this. So, okay, I just got to remember to always do this. And I'm like, well, those are the people who missed their opener because their body, what they say, like your body's going to default to the level of your preparation and your training. I know I just butchered that quote, but it's basically your body's going to act the way that you've trained it to act. So, that's not even the most egregious one. I know you see this a lot, but how many times are you a referee and somebody's a lifter and they come out there and they're waiting for you to give them a squat command? And you're like,
oh, that happens a bunch. And you're just sitting there kind of looking at them and you're like you can go. Like we don't, there's no start. Even if you watch, I've seen some where they take it out of the rack and they don't know they can put it back in the rack. If it doesn't feel right, they step out and you can tell they're just uncomfortable. You look at their face and you're like, just please. You're just saying in your head, like, please just re-rack it and do it again. Like take another go at this. But just knowing the rules and what you can and can't do.
That's what I'm saying, man.
So much.
It's like, dude, it's not like find out what you're not allowed to do. There's a bunch of stuff that you could do that would kind of help
you on that day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of rules that if you use it in a year, like it will help you out have a better day. At the end of the day, it will help you out.
100%. All right. So this is something, because you've competed in single ply and raw. I'm going to say this, and I thought this was the perfect person to quote, is Louis Simmons. And you probably know the quote I'm going to say. It's like, don't have $100 shoes and a 10-cent squat, which is ironic because people think, okay, that, Louis coached equipped lifters. So people always have this idea, oh, well, it's the equipment that, you just need to get the right equipment and you'll be able to, get whatever you need on the platform that day. But as you and I were talking about before we started the podcast, equipment can betray you. Your sleeve could fail, your knee sleeves could fail. I've seen wrist wraps come loose in the middle of the bench. That's not fun. So even a raw lifter, I think we're at a point where even raw lifters rely a little bit too much on the equipment. Like they're like, I get it. I just gotta get different knee sleeves so I can, that's why I missed my squat. I need to get better knee sleeves or whatever. You know what I mean? What advice would you give somebody who's getting ready to start prep? They're watching this and they're getting ready to start prepping for a meet that's a few months away. What advice would you give to them about being ready for game day? They're getting themselves ready for game day instead of just relying on equipment.
It's hard to put in. If it's going to go wrong, it probably can go wrong, and you're going to experience it at some point. So just being able to adjust from that and still have a good beat and not let it fluster you to the point of, oh my God, I'm not going to do good because this feels different or this feels different. It's probably the biggest thing, because I've done weight cuts where single ply, the suits don't fit the same, they feel different. My knee sleeves, even if I go out and eat a whole bunch of Chinese food before a meet and I swell up like a little balloon, getting my knee sleeves, they're tighter, they feel different. So just being able to adjust off of everything and knowing, like, meet days, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows and you're not going to be happy, it's going to feel different. But knowing that you've done the work and you are as strong as you can be to overcome anything, and going in there with the mindset of, no matter what happens, I'm strong as I'm going to be, this is what's going to happen, and just going with that would probably be one of the biggest things.
There's a bunch of things you said in there that I just want to like drill down on. First of all is about stuff going wrong. I remember the last time I spoke to you, you were telling me, about how you actually like it when things don't go 100% perfectly in training, because it kind of like bulletproofs your mind in case it goes wrong on game day. You're like, hey, no matter what happens here, the barbells are going to be better than the barbell I got at the house. Anything bad happens here at the meet, that's fine. I've already gone through all this stuff. I work a 12-hour day, come home and bench 500 pounds, so this can't be harder than that, that kind of thing. Talk about why it's important to maybe allow some imperfection into your training cycle to kind of build you up emotionally for when, not if, for when stuff goes wrong at the meet.
There's always going to be something. I mean, what you use at the gym is not going to be the same. What's on the platform, how you train, it's not going to be the same. What you eat's not going to be the same. So everything's going to be different. So the more you can get used to, okay, you feel off, but you're still training, you're still feeling, you can still have a good workout. We do it here at my house. There'll be days where we don't turn the heater on and I'll lift it's freezing cold and still lift. Or you get done working all day long, and how many people will say, oh, I don't want to lift? Well, lift tired. How many times have you gone to a meet where you don't sleep good the night before and then you're tired, but you still got to go in and you still got to lift, you still got to do it? So, I mean, just doing whatever, just doing little things like, okay, well, today I'm going to deadlift with no shoes on. Today I'm going to squat with no shoes on. Today I'm going to put my shoes on. Today I'm not going to put my shoes on. Just feeling different and understanding you don't have to have it all exactly right to still be strong. You're still going to be strong. You're still that same person, just without all the fancy stuff around you. The comfort. Try to take the comfort out of it. Because on meet day, no matter what happens, you still got to lift. You can't say, oh, well, I didn't sleep good, so I don't want to do it today. Well, treat training the same way. Oh, I worked all day long, I'm tired. Okay, well, I still got to lift because today I'm supposed to lift.
Yeah. I even I remember I had a coach who once told me that he was impressed by how I handled a situation in a meet where my little boy, he was like maybe 10 years old at the time. This is our youngest son. He and I, we're like, man, we want to compete at the same meet, right? Well, when we get there and it's a 3-platform meet. And of course, he's on one platform and I'm on another platform, and I'm not even on the platform right next to his. I'm all the way down at the end. So I'm used to being his handler. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to just abandon him. So I ended up, long story short, he would do his lift. I would, after his lift is over, I tell him, hey, go tell them you want this up at the table. And as soon as then I would do that, and then I take off running, literally running down to my platform. And of course, it always happened. I'm running in and getting under the bar, step out, squat. So I didn't have time for like the big elaborate setup. And my coach was like, because he was handling a bunch of people that day. He said, I'm impressed that you're able to go from thinking about your son to running to being able to focus and squat. Like, I didn't bomb out that meet. If you're gonna bomb out that meet, that's gonna be the meet to do it, right? Yeah. And he's like, I'm impressed that you were able to do that. Of course, it did affect how much I could squat, so we adjusted my numbers. But he said, just the fact that you do that, and he said, I don't know a lot of people do that. And so I told him, I said, well, the reason is I lift at home, and my kids and my wife all know that if they need to interrupt me for something, they can. At most, I'll say, just wait a second. Let's say I got the bar on my back already.
Oh, that my kids will do the same. They'll come out and they'll be like, "Hey, can I get this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'll stop, pull knee sleeves down, take knee wrap, whatever I got to do, and go help them, and then come back. And I mean, it just makes it so much easier. I mean, I used to be so uptight, and everything had to be a certain way of the meet, and now it's just like whatever happens, happens. We'll just adjust and go with it because I'm still here. I'm still strong. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
We can still just go have fun.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I mean. It's like so many lifters are like, I've seen lifters, man, they're at a public gym and they don't even want people to walk in front of them if they're about to squat or deadlift. I'm like, seriously? Do you know at a meet, you might see anything in the crowd because they're not thinking about you on the platform. You don't tell them what you'll see happen in a crowd because, you may be looking at the judge, you may be looking at whatever, and I'll tell them what you'll see happen. What happens if the guy in front of you gets hurt? And you got to then go up and be right after him, and you just saw that. You got to be able to block all that stuff out and perform. So
we had the Arnold, the first Arnold I did, a guy tore both quads, and you heard it, and they were calling for the ambulance, and you heard him screaming, and then like after 30 minutes, they kind of gave everybody a little bit of time to warm back up, and then it's like, okay, well, next up on the platform, it's like, oh my God, we still got to lift. Like, this is not good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I think that's why powerlifting is such a unique sport that really, really tests you mentally in a way that most other sports don't. And that's another reason I love it. You know what I mean? You mentioned cutting weight. Do you think athletes focus too much on cutting weight instead of just finding the right class to perform in? Like, hey, this is where you happen to be at your best, especially in the beginning, in the early part of their career.
I would put it there, if you're not going for a true national record, and I don't mean national for what organization you want to lift in, a true overall national record or world record, there's no reason for you to cut weight, to go chase a state record or a USPC record. Or you can do it, but chances are it's not going to work out. And your body will only cut weight so many times before it starts getting even harder to gain weight back and cut weight. It's just not worth it. It's not. I've yet to see it be worth it for anything other than like a true world record or national record.
As an athlete, and I played football in high school, I competed in kickboxing, and I competed in powerlifting. And I believe in continuous self-improvement, both as an athlete and just as a person in general. I preach that to my kids. What are you working on to be better at in 2025, either on or off the platform?
Oh man, my diet. I hate to say it, but I finally have gotten somebody to.
You're gonna write the cookbook?
I've had to steer away from a lot of bad food, and now we are tracking everything to like the gram, and it's horrible, but at the same time I feel better. Okay. So I can't complain. I'm like, wow, all these years I felt like crap. I just thought, hey, you're a powerlifter, you're supposed to feel like crap every day, and it's really not. Man. It's just trying to be, because I know where I want to go, and I know what I gotta do, and now age is now not on my side, so now I have to do all the little things that I didn't have to do before to get away with what I can do.
Gotcha.
So now it's putting all the other bad pieces together, I guess.
Oh
What I call
man.
bad pieces. But yeah, we're now tracking everything, and it's
So I'm happy for you, but I'm sad because I truly enjoyed going on your Instagram and seeing the, like, so you're telling me no more burgers with a donut, donuts as
if
the
we can
bread.
if we can work it out into the macros, maybe. But
Okay.
we've toyed with the idea of one alcoholic drink per workout and do like a review of that for the week
Yeah,
and
that's your
try
thing with the
that out for
pre-workout, right?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So now it's I did one a couple of weeks ago before I got sick, and oh it was just nasty. It was horrible. But so we're trying to we're gonna probably just do that just to keep it fun and interesting.
No more moonshine and pre-workouts, man.
No, it'll be during the workout, but it'll only be
Oh, okay, okay, okay. All right.
because
All right.
I asked some people and somebody said chocolate martini while you work out, and I'm
That doesn't even
like,
sound good.
it don't, but hey, I mean, we'll see what
Why not?
happens. I guess why not?
That sounds horrible, actually.
But I guess I mean we can do like a coffee martini, I guess maybe, and then, we'll call it a pre-workout.
Okay. Okay. So you don't really coach people, but as a referee, pretend you're giving an extended rules and briefing. What advice do you have for somebody watching this who's preparing for their first ever powerlifting meet this weekend?
Really pay attention to pausing the bench and lifting without headphones on. And that's going to be
Mhm.
the biggest thing. And how you warm up and the timing of it all. Cuz and even to your attempts, just have an idea, cuz there's so many times people will walk up to the table and be like, "How'd that look? What should I go to next?" And if it's me sitting at the table, I'm gonna tell you add 100 pounds to whatever you do, whether what it looks like doesn't matter. I'm just gonna be like 100 pounds, let's go. And let's but other than that, I mean, it's just fun. Just have fun with it. Take it. I mean, even if you red light, don't take it. It's nothing personal. I've been red lighted before.
Yeah.
Everybody gets red lighted.
Yeah. Um, let's flip it around. Uh, what advice do you have for somebody who just bombed out for the first time last weekend?
Don't let that stop you. Don't let one bad meet stop you. Everybody's done. I've done it. Everybody who's lifted for any amount of time has bombed out on a meet. Figure out what you did, what happened, and then just fix it and make sure that doesn't happen again.
What do you ever handle people? Like, I don't. Obviously, if you know somebody, you'll handle them. But I mean, how, like, somebody will be at a meeting, they'll ask you, "Hey, I know who you are, or I've heard of you. Will you?" Or even if they reach out ahead of time, say, "Hey, I'm going to be at such and such place. I need somebody to handle me." Do you ever do that?
If somebody asks, I'll do the best I can. But
Okay.
like I don't for me, like I don't really need nothing. Like it as long as you let me know what you need beforehand, I got you covered. I can help you out. But I don't know. I can guess what you're gonna lift next and be pretty close each time but I mean,
Yeah.
I'll do what whatever anybody needs, because there was a time where I would go to a meet all by myself, wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, drive to middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, do a meet, and there's nobody around.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes just even having somebody like who can tell you, all right, it's time for you to wrap your knees, or like I'm gonna pay attention to all this stuff so you don't have to, that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. And not necessarily coaching, but more like, I'm gonna let you I'm gonna take care of all the little stuff so that you don't have to. All right, I was
yeah.
just curious about that. So on a more general scale, like I said, you don't necessarily coach, but you've told me before that you don't mind if people ask you questions. So I've got your Instagram underneath your name right there. And let's go ahead and close out with you telling people how they can reach out to you if they have questions. And if you would like to give them some guidelines, like, hey, questions you would prefer, you know what I mean? Or not prefer, then, go ahead and say that too as we close out.
So it's just Instagram's Big Wichtl Powerlifting. You can ask anything you want, and you're gonna get a brutally honest answer from me. I won't hide behind nothing. I don't have to. I'm not selling nothing. Nobody's. I don't have a contract with nobody. So you're gonna get the brutal, honest. If you're squatting high and you're like, "Hey, how does my squats look?" I'm gonna tell you, you're high. It's not good. But I mean, you can ask anything, and I mean, if I really don't want to answer, I'll just nicely tell you, no, I'm not going to answer that. But there's a good chance you won't get that.
Awesome. Well, Chris, man, I appreciate you spending some time with me here on Conquering the Platform. I think this is going to be another big year for the USPC, and I look forward to seeing you again at the Shack Showdown. So, getting ready to see how this time you're gonna get that 800. I believe it.
Oh, next time I'll be, instead of 275, it'll be 242.
Nice. Oh
So
yeah.
we're already slowly going that way.
Okay.
242 with 21 something, 2200.
Getting ready for the Sports Illustrated cover. What's that? The body issue where they get the athletes to pose it. There you go. That's Chris. He's getting ready.
Got to do better. Got to do better than fifth. Got to hit better than fifth.
I hear you, man. No, I seriously do appreciate you, man, and how you are always willing to give your time. That's what makes, to me, the USPC a special place. So appreciate it, man. Everybody go follow at Big Wichtl Powerlifting on Instagram, and we will see you next time on Conquering the Platform.